Hello, everybody, and welcome to Kick Conflict to the Curb, the place that department managers, leaders, and growth minded individuals come to learn how to kick conflict to the curb. And the most learning comes from my guests. I always invite people who have some type of a strategy to share, and I cannot wait for today. Well, my name is Joyce Weiss, and I'm your host. And I'm known as a queen of conflict resolution. And I support department managers so they can inspire and educate their direct reports who are tired of feeling invisible and unheard. So they transform to feeling confident using their voice without losing their cool. And the result is their input is recognized and respected, and their expertise is taken seriously. So people ask me, Joyce, how can I work with you to kick conflict to the curb? There's three options. Either the leaders can come to me directly and we work on how they can have tough conversations and to deal with their stress that they deal with daily. They can send their direct reports who either need to learn how to speak their voice or need to learn how to calm that real aggressive voice. And then the last part is that people bring me in to do a personalized facilitation for small groups. And make sure and stay tuned until the end where I can share with you how we can have a Jam with Joyce session together. So I'm so excited to learn from our guest today. And I had a chance to interview him before, and I am so ready to ask these powerful questions. So I'd like to introduce you to our guest. Craig Tedrow spent the first 27 years of his career as a frontline employee in a large manufacturing environment. When a company prompted employees to take a buyout, he decided to become a full-time student to further his education. When he returned to the workforce, he re-entered a manufacturing environment. It was then that he realized how much he learned about lean manufacturing. Within 2 years, he became the CI manager and was fortunate to have a team of servant leaders who loved sharing lean methodologies with anybody who would listen. Asking the workers how they would improve their area helped to get everyone involved. Do you see why I invited Craig to be a guest on Kick Conflict to the Curb? Well, here's a fun fact. At least that's what he said. Here's a fun fact about Craig. He was bit by a piranha. Welcome to the show, Craig.
Thank you, Joyce. Boy, you really set that one up, right?
I had to. I mean, I'm sorry. We got to start with this piranha story. You said it was a fun fact, so help me, please.
Well, it's funny because we were doing some training at an organization and we like to say, all right, does anybody have a fun fact? So it's like, well, of course we have to participate too, right? So it's like, all right, what do I have that I can share that might be interesting to folks? And I would like to say that I was in the rainforest, in some far off land trying to dig up some roots for some great cure for some disease, but unfortunately it wasn't so exciting. I was actually in a pet store on South Division in our local town, and I was really big time into aquarium fish back in the 80s, and I would go to fish stores and just see what I might want to buy for my tank. So I was in this fish store. I was wearing a red windbreaker. I don't know if that made a difference. And I walked in front of this tank and these fish seemed a little agitated and there was no cover on them. And one of them jumped out and landed on the floor. And if you have your own aquarium, whenever a fish is out of water, the first thing you do is pick it up and throw it back in the water. Well, apparently piranhas do this when they're out of water, and it took a chunk of my thumb. So it was not as exciting as it sounds, but it does make kind of for a fun story, I guess.
Oh, and like you said, we set this whole thing up because I did ask you for a fun fact, and I'll tell you right now, nobody told me this fun fact. So already that sets you up as a very unique guest. So we're going to be talking about your passion about making sure that frontline employees are heard. So were you ever in a position when leadership didn't know how to make employees feel heard? If so, what did you learn from this? And how do you use this today?
I think it was probably when I was exposed to lean manufacturing, which is just a fancy word for process improvement. If we organize something at home and make it easier to get to, we're practicing lean. So when I started at a large office furniture company in the 80s, we batched everything. We just made hundreds of these and hundreds of those. And then we figured out that there's a better way to do the process. So they brought in some folks to teach us or introduce us to lean manufacturing. And I didn't grasp it very well back then. I felt like lean was getting done to us. And that's something that I really try to avoid. I try to avoid having folks feel like, all right, this is the flavor of the month. This is what I have to do this month because of our boss or something like that. So I was actually dug my heels in. I was really against this transformation to lean manufacturing. And it wasn't until, oh gosh, years after, I think when I got my other manufacturing job after going back to school, I just realized how important our ideas were. My ideas, my coworkers' ideas, everybody on the shop floor is the expert. And I 100% believe that in my heart, that the person running the machine or doing the process or answering the phone at the call center, they're the experts in what they do. They do it every day. And I just feel that so much was left on the table without asking us as much as how can we improve our process. So I learned that the key to that is just to get right down to the operator level. Go to the front line, ask, what are you doing? And not go out there with two ears and really listen. I think active listening is just a huge part of that.
Oh, Craig, and in my world of kick conflict to the curb, when I interview people, either for the show or for facilitation, I don't care where they are, whether they're frontline employees or the leader. Almost every single one of them say, I don't feel heard.
Mm-hmm.
And especially the front line, the direct reports. So I love the fact that you had this experience years ago. And as a result of this, you're on the show talking about making sure that frontline employees feel heard. And we
Right.
all
When they
know,
don't feel heard, they're not going to bring up any ideas.
no,
And I've heard that so many times. It's like, well, did you explain this or suggest this, maybe to your team lead? Or it's like, well, it really won't matter anyways. They already have their mind made up. This is
yes.
how we're going to do it. So it's just such a huge untapped opportunity, I think, to get that input.
Yeah, untapped, and you wonder why the star employees leave. Hello, after a while. So you support leaders by showing them the importance of asking frontline employees for their feedback and opinions because they are the experts, like you just said, in the field. Tell me about positive and negative experiences you've had from leaders, because this is so important. Because those watching, whether it's live or the recording later,
Mm-hmm.
we all have worked for leaders who get it and leaders who just don't, like you were talking about before. So please tell us some positive and negative experiences you've had.
Oh, for sure. And I'll kick it off with my positive first.
Okay.
And this is a true story, and I think it put me where I am today. When I got out of school, I went back to school for computer networking, which I'm absolutely horrible at. So when I got out of that, my wife said, all right, it's time to get a job. So I got into manufacturing again, making carbon fiber car parts. So we were doing the Corvette and the Dodge Viper. So some very cool things. So I was on the floor. We were starting up a new company in West Michigan, and we were growing like crazy. And they were asking for suggestions. How can we improve our processes? So going to school, I'd written a few papers that I had to write for some assignments. So I put all my ideas down on paper, and I turned those ideas in. I probably had about five ideas in there. And I'm out there working on the line. I think I was training somebody at the time. And there's a tap on my shoulder. And that was when I met Patrick Adams. And Patrick Adams is the founder of Lean Solutions. So at the time, he was the CI manager at this company. So he taps me on the shoulder and says, I read your suggestions and I was wondering if you would be interested in working with my team and implementing some of your ideas. So, I couldn't believe it. I went home and I told my wife, I said, this company is actually asking for ideas, and not only asking for them, they want me to help implement them. So I think for the first time, I really felt that I was listened to. And I realized how much I had learned at my previous job by
Mhm.
living through this lean transformation. Simple things like visual management. We use visual management every day anyway, when we're in our car, on the road, at the airport. We should use that in our work environment as well. So some of the ideas I threw out there were some very basic ones, tool boards, just some ideas to get us up and running faster. And being able to do that and work with Patrick's team just really got me to love continuous improvement. And I
And
loved it because you brought it out to the folks on the shop floor. And that's I think is the turning point for me. And I often wonder what would have happened years ago had I really gotten bit by the CI bug. Would I still be at my original company? And I could have been in CI, continuous improvement, earlier,
sure.
possible. But I wouldn't change it for the world right now. I get to go to different companies, work with the frontline workers, which is just my absolute favorite thing to do, and letting them know that they do have a voice. And if we make small incremental changes, they can change some other people and get them on their side too.
And I
So,
love this story for so many reasons. Let's talk about the first one that came to my mind anyway. You went home when Patrick asked you to give your opinion after he saw your list.
mhm,
You went home, you shared that experience with your wife. You think that is powerful when leaders, please listen to Craig and Joyce about this one. When you include the frontline employee with their ideas, it goes so much further than, hey, thank you, we're going to use your idea. They take it back. This is worth so much weight in how to keep your frontline employees motivated. So, phenomenal positive story. Phenomenal. And this
yeah,
is a clue to everybody, every leader who is watching. Please, this is not fluff, folks.
right. All right. So
So,
there was my good one.
okay,
So I
I was just
actually
going to
have
say,
one that wasn't as good.
uh-oh.
I was a CI manager at another company, and my whole outlook is get the whole team together. If we're going to rearrange an area, I don't have any suggestions on where to put your machines. The folks that run the machines have the ideas. So we were out there and we spent quite a bit of time getting input from everybody. We gave them blank layouts, let them lay out the machines how they wanted it, where they thought their flow would be the best. And then when we brought it up to management, management had already had some other ideas about how they wanted this project to go.
Mm.
So I kind of felt like we had just spun our wheels. I told everybody that their ideas were the ones we were going to go with, and then come to find out they were not necessarily the ideas that we went with. So, and that was really kind of demoralizing for the team. It's like, well, here we thought we were going to really get some good input on this. And some of it was just some silly stuff as to where we were going to put things. I understand some of the budget constraints that you might have. We can't maybe get the latest and greatest machinery, but some of this was just some of the little stuff.
Mhm.
And that was just sort of demoralizing to the team. And it takes a while to build that trust with your team. You're asking for opinions, and then if you don't use them, those folks just shut down. And it takes forever to get them to open back up again.
And the good news about this horrible story and experience is that in your training, you have your own story. That it's not, you didn't just get book smart, Craig. You've got your own experiences. And that's one of the reasons why I knew I had to have you on the show, because you have experienced both the good and the bad. And because of that, you bring it to your training. So, yay, it's a pleasure to
Yeah,
talk
as
to
far as
you.
the book smart, I was a solid C minus student in high school. So I did not have
Yep.
that. I didn't go back to college, oh gosh, until I was almost 50. So it took a while for me to go back and get that.
And look
But
at you
it's
now.
the front line, just the experience of being on the floor.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And your passion is so obvious. So you've sure found something important to you. So you say that leaders would have great advocates. You've said this a couple times when they respect, here's the word, when they respect frontline workers. Tell us more about respect in the workplace. Because you notice back there, kick conflict to the curb, get the respect you deserve. So
Mhm.
this is an important word to me. You better shine here, sir.
Okay. Well, to get respect that you deserve, you have to give it, of course. We can't expect to get something that we're not giving. And
Mhm.
what I like to do is when you go out and approach somebody, just treat them like they're the most important person in the world right now. Open your ears. Active listening is so important. We've all had those conversations with folks where someone is telling you an idea or they're telling you something or you're telling somebody something and they're just waiting to jump in to say what they want to say.
Yep.
And you really know that they're not listening to you. So
Mhm.
if you can go out there and really make a point to be an active listener, and the nice thing about this is something that folks can learn. If anybody has any leader standard work that they follow around, which is just kind of a fancy way of saying some notes that I follow throughout the day, you can add it to say on a Tuesday and a Thursday, I'm going to go out and I'm going to ask somebody a question and I'm going to refrain from giving them any advice. I'm just going to ask them and listen to them. I think that's a great way to show respect. And I actually was talking to somebody a couple of days ago and they're in a leadership position. And she said the exact same thing. She said, you know what, folks say that I'm approachable. And she says, but I don't feel like I am. I said, well, it
Mhm.
just must be the way that you're making them feel. And I know you've heard that quote before, and it's been attributed to so many different people. But folks will not remember maybe what you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel.
Mhm.
And I really love that. And I think that embodies so much of that. If you see someone coming up the aisle to talk to you and you're like, oh, good, I like that person. I really want to talk to that person. Or, oh, here I go. I wonder what I'm going to get yelled at for today. There's just two different ways that we can take that. I think you have to show the respect. And if someone is not good at that, at being an active listener, like I said, I think it's something that can be learned. It
Oh,
can be something that we
absolutely.
can make a point to do, you know. Some of the other things are a little bit harder to learn. Some folks have natural empathy. I think doing the job or being in someone's shoes, walk a mile in someone's shoes and you really understand what it's about. But there are some things that we can do to just get better at that active listening. I think that's a
Oh,
huge part of it.
and part of what you're saying, I better do some active listening. Wouldn't it be terrible if I went to the next question and didn't respond? You'd say, "Oh boy, is she real?" Is coaching. What you just described is leaders. You're really coaches. Coaches, the good ones that were trained
Yes.
by good coaches, know advice. We're not fixers. We listen. We listen. We watch for the body language. I'm watching your body language, and your passion is just gushing out of your eyes. I'm just telling you. So that's so important. Is I love the fact that we have to stop being fixers. Therefore, then when you put that in your notes, okay, I'm not going to be a fixer today, and listen, that's that's golden. So we're speaking the same language. What a shock.
Right. I agree.
Yeah, what a shock. So, what is your secret sauce when you work with leaders to ensure that they follow up on what they learned from you, especially helping their employees take on responsibilities, ouch, and letting go of the leader's power and influence?
Oh, it's so hard, I find, for most leaders to let go, especially that maybe they started their business and it was a small mom and pop shop, and then they're starting to grow and they open up more locations. It's hard for them to let go of making all those decisions. So
Mhm.
I just like to point out to leaders that if you hired folks for a certain reason, you hired them because you thought they were the best at what they do. Let them be the best at what they do. If everybody has to wait for you to make the decisions, can you just imagine how slow it's going to be to get these decisions made? And somebody told me a great story. He was a plant manager at a company that I was at. And he talked about, like, if your furnace goes on the fritz, you call in a furnace repairman or woman,
Mhm.
repair person comes in. Do you stand over their shoulder and point out all the things that they should be doing to your furnace? Most times you don't. You trust them, right? You want to let
Mhm.
them do what they do. Maybe you're there to move the washing machine out of the way so they can get better access to it. But I thought when he told me that story, I said, I absolutely love that one, because it's like, let folks do what they do. You hired them for a reason. Let them make decisions. All their decisions are not going to be the best. But when you think about it, if they learn from it and they don't make that decision again, then you don't have to be there asking and answering all the questions yourself.
No. And it's what I had a service person here a couple days ago, and my husband, he loves being in the room whenever and when he's not working as a lawyer, and he loves it. I think he could have been in some of the industries for the service industry in home improvement. And so the serviceman very nicely, with a big smile, said, "You know, I charge this amount to come out to your house, and I double the fee when people watch over me." And then I just love that. Of course, my husband still didn't leave the room, but I mean, because he didn't hover over him, but he was just very interested. And that's what leaders, we've got to understand. And I love that you said that. Mistakes. Leaders with humility know that they're going to make mistakes, and so are their frontline employees. And I always call these either learning moments, coaching moments. I mean, when I had a client come to me and told me that his boss said, "You're in charge of this next Zoom meeting, and we want you to tell the group exactly of our new initiatives." So my client had his PowerPoint ready, and he was all ready to go. Sure enough, Craig, wouldn't you know it, the tech, for whatever reason, the share slide didn't work. So instead of his boss giving him 30 seconds to figure out, "Oh, I know what I have to do," she got on, she took over. Well, it ended up that my client decided, because of many things that this boss did, it was time to leave.
Okay. And
Because
I like to tell leaders too that you have a responsibility to get folks excited about process improvements.
yes.
So when I try to do that with folks, I try to tie all of these process improvements, which is what lean is about, right? About
Yes.
making something a little better. I try to tie it to things that they do at home. What do we do at home that would make our lives easier? So
Mhm.
I've actually started making a few videos of like a changeover for a machine. Like if you have to take out a die to put in a new piece to make a new part, that's called a changeover. And we try to reduce the amount of time that our machines are in changeover mode. So I thought, well, what can I do to help leaders get their folks excited about this? So I started making short videos of like changing my chainsaw from a 20-inch blade down to a 16-inch blade. So it's easier if I'm in the woods trying to cut some trees. I don't have this long 20-inch bar on there. So I started making these changeover videos just to show folks that, you know what, we do changeovers at home. And how can I improve this? So the first time I did the changeover, of course, I had to dig out my chainsaw, try to find the right tools, which were in different cabinets all over the place. Come to find out, the bar that I bought for this new chainsaw was the wrong one. So my changeover did not go very far. So I'm in the process of actually getting the right equipment and making the changeover. And then we can sit and watch that video and say, how could we improve that? How could we make that time a little bit shorter in that changeover? And then that's what we talk about. We try to get folks excited for that. Maybe we take our lawnmower blades. I have some really good ones for the good grass, and then I have field grass that I cut. So I have my old blades that are all nicked up. So I end up doing a changeover on those. If I can get that down to just a few minutes, it's not such a pain anymore to change those over. So
No.
trying to tell leaders to do some of that stuff and get their folks excited. They have a responsibility, I think, to get their folks excited. And you mentioned something about coaching. Whenever we do some teaching, we always follow it up, or we try to always follow it up, going out on the floor with folks and say, how can you apply this in your everyday?
Perfect.
And I think that was something when you and I talked before that I thought was really, really interesting, because your love of coaching as well.
Oh,
We just
absolutely.
the telling somebody something or watching a PowerPoint is one thing, but if we shut those books and just go back to work and it's business as usual, then what are we really getting out of it? So that stuck with me when you said that, how really think the coaching is important, and I totally agree with that.
Thank you, and I agree. Obviously, I agree with it because I said it. What I love about this last story, Craig, you may be surprised at the little piece that I picked up, is that you took that video that maybe didn't turn out as well as you wanted. And you smiled when you told that story. And you took it and let's say, okay, how could we fix this? How could we make this better? And that is a leader with humility, which you have, sir. I don't always have guests who are leaders with humility, and I just have to say that. And the ones that do are the ones that get invited back because you are the real ones, the authentic ones, the ones that admit that they make mistakes. And what can we learn? And it doesn't mean that you're a perfectionist. Am I speaking your truth or not
Oh
here?
yes, I definitely have my share of mistakes. There was one that I made actually when I was, and this I think it's an important story to tell, just
Mhm.
because of my leader, because I want to explain what this person, what how great they were when I did this. I was cooking at the Hilton, the Grand Rapids Hilton, the Spinnaker restaurant. It's a very nice restaurant. I worked there from 16 to 20, so through high school, and I did a co-op class where I got to go to work and get credit for that. And I'll never forget, I was making Thousand Island dressing, a big bucket of it, and we had what's called a buffalo chopper, and you would open up the ingredients, dump them in the buffalo chopper, the pickles and things like that, and it would chop them all up. So I went and got the olives that had to go in there. I dumped the olives in there. I turned it on, and it sounded like ball bearings were in this thing, or BBs or something. And
Yeah.
but then after a while, it got quiet. So I'm thinking, oh, okay, it's quieting down. So I made this Thousand Island dressing. And in the restaurant, when we get busy, it was like 7 o'clock at night. All the salads start going out to the dining room,
Mhm.
and before you know it, all the salads start coming back in the dining room. And I'm thinking, what's wrong? Apparently, I had used olives that had pits in them when I dumped them in there. So, and I will never forget our executive chef. His name is Rain Kansman. He just walked by. He looked at me, and he knew that I felt horrible. You know, I'm 17 years old, thinking all these servers are staring at me like, "What are you going to do about this?" And he just looked at me. He shook his head and just, I think he mumbled my last name, but just gave a little bit of a smile. He knows I didn't do that on purpose.
Sure.
He could have yelled. He could have gotten upset. And I forget what we did. I think we strained some things out, and made a quick batch to get back up and running again. But I will never forget that. It just sticks in my mind from that many years ago. I just felt safe in an environment there, safe to fail. I could try something, and if it didn't work out, I knew that I was not going to get yelled at. I was just given some respect, I guess.
Yeah, and here we go again, another great story that you're using now all these years later, and
Right.
I could definitely relate with that. I did something like that with the pits when I did, a tapenade, a
Oh,
tapenade.
okay. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, and I didn't even realize that there were pits, so yeah, yeah, but it wasn't at work, so great story. Listen, Greg, I don't believe it, but our time is over. So I want, first of all, a very important question. Will you come back again?
Oh, I would love to. And I have another good mistake story that I did that's a little bit further. I was a little bit older, but this involved even more people. So I'll have to save that one and tell you that one later.
That's a teaser, folks, for
It
the
is.
for the return. So please tell I have on the ticker tape here, findleansolutions.com. So tell people how they can find you, please.
Well, findleansolutions.com is our website. Um, Again, it's a great place to go if you're looking for lean ideas, if you're looking for any type of training. We have online training, in-person training, coaching. Like I said, most all of our training, we follow up with some coaching. But if you go to findleansolutions.com, look around on the website. We had our first conference last year, a summit in West Michigan. We're going to have another one coming up this fall. We just had some great feedback on that as well. But you'll find all that information on our website at
Great.
findleansolutions.com. So thank you for that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and they'll find some more things about lean for those of you who don't know it. And
For sure.
there's a wonderful association in Michigan called the Michigan Lean Consortium, of which that's where I met Greg.
That's right. We
And
had lunch
it,
together out on the
yes,
patio
yes, we
overlooking the
did.
water.
And a beautiful day in
It
Michigan. Yes,
was.
we do have beautiful days in Michigan, folks. So thank you again for being a phenomenal guest. You'll come back. And it was a pleasure highlighting all of your passion for
Well,
frontline
thank you, Joyce.
employees.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. So I sure hope that you enjoyed yourself as much as I did learning from Craig Tedrow all about good leadership, listening to frontline employees, making sure that they feel heard. And if you want to get more strategies on how you can stop dreading those tough conversations, either if you're a leader or a growth minded person, all you have to do is go to joyceweiss.com. You'll be able to find articles on how to take those tough conversations and make them easy to start. And you could use articles for some of these articles for your own newsletter. And also, you'll find the different coaching packages that I have. And at the beginning, I said I was going to tell you how you can set up a complimentary Jam with Joyce session where we can delve into one of your conflicts, and so that you can experience more enjoyment at work because the drama will be reduced, and you're no longer going to feel invisible because your input is recognized. So all you need to do is send me an email. I'll send you my calendar and we can set that up. And if you want to connect, linkedin.com/Joyce Weiss. So if you like this, all you have to do is reach out to me. And I want to thank you for watching again and for you. And I'm going to say, if you want to add some love to the post show links on either LinkedIn or YouTube or Facebook, ask us questions. I know Craig would love to answer, and so would I. So until next time, this is Joyce Weiss, and I have something very important to say that I do all the time. You get what you tolerate. Thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time.